Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from Red State dated July 31st, and it says, on his final day at the Washington Post, we recognize the career of esteemed fact-checker Glenn Kessler. And I like that esteemed is in sort of scare quotes there, because if you guys don't know who this dude is, he's your typical left-wing fact-checker that everything is Republicans bad, Democrats good, and he's going to do whatever he can to twist everything to fit a particular narrative. And it's funny how only left-wing sites tend to have fact-checkers. You never see it on right-wing sites. But anyway, this is the guy in the picture right here. And yeah, he's a shill, but he's out of a job, and that's good. So it says, this week, the surprise announcement was made that among the big names jumping from the sinking ship that is the Washington Post was the longtime fact-checker extraordinaire, Glenn Kessler. And I hope that it's said with all due sarcasm. It says he decided that after a 27-year tenure at the paper, he was going to accept the buyout offer that the new management put forth for those who could not tolerate the editorial shifts proposed to keep the paper functioning. Yeah, because I think WaPo's been hemorrhaging money for like a long time now. Like, I'm talking not just like years, but since before Jeff Bezos bought it. And basically when you have someone like Jeff Bezos who has unlimited money, well, you can keep going basically forever. But anyway, let's keep going here. It says, in my town hall media column, not me, the author, says, I use one category to feature flawed corrections called body checking the fact checkers, displayed the biased manipulations of the truth by these arbiters of accuracy. Glenn Kessler has been a frequent entrant with his consistent desire to shield Democrats and come out against Donald Trump and the Republicans. Bonchi, who's another writer on the site, definitely a good follow on Twitter as well, says Bonchi brought a few receipts to show Kessler's slanted work, but to this day deserves a career retrospective to fully appreciate his body or corpse of work. This is, Glenn was at the forefront of tabulating Trump's alleged lies in his first term in office, and like the others, he would inflate the total by recounting any time Trump repeated the same disputed claim. Oh, that's low as hell. I did not know he did that, but that is shady shit. This is Tim Graham, noted in one example, and Tim Graham is for Newsbusters, is who he works for. It says, Glenn claimed Trump lied about blacks having the lowest unemployment rate in history, calling it false because the data only began being measured in the 1970s. Then he took that weak-teed debunked ruling to count every time Trump lied about it, which was 80 times. Yeah, that's shady. It says, then Mr. Kessler was seen pulling the exact opposite during Joe Biden years. As his 2021 term began, Kessler famously announced he was suspending the lie tracker for presidential silver alert because he was simply convinced that Biden would be more honest. I remember when he did that and people were like, I'm sorry, what? Like Joe Biden? Like, who we've already known at that point lied about numerous things when he took office, which, you know, it's kind of the reason why he had to drop out running for president back in the 80s, but, you know, go look that up if you want to. It says, imagine our surprise to learn his job was to compile statistics to determine who wins, not analyze the facts. But how convenient was it that he knew ahead that Biden would not be delivering deception? And here's him just saying, basically, yeah, the same stuff that we just read, because he's a hack. It says, then he went further with his warped approach, employing another fact-checker tactic. Much like the New York Times did when concluding the lying recidivism from Joe Biden made him merely the storyteller-in-chief, Kessler also addressed Biden's lies in a rather novel fashion. They were not, in fact, lies. He drew up a lengthy column tabulating myths and provably artificial stories and boasts, and then cracked open the thesaurus to reframe the lies. Behold this list of descriptors of Biden comments Kessler went with. And here we go. It says, aren't credible, likes to tell stories, propensity to exaggerate, embellish tales, doubts about his truthfulness, his version, personal tales cannot be verified, refuted by contemporary accounts, deep breath, implausible story, claims story has evolved, did not add up, amended his statement, not plausible. It says, and there you have it. If you do not classify those deceptions as lies, they do not get counted, and therefore, he lies far less often. Also, like the Times, Glenn compiles a laundry list of falsehoods from Biden into a solitary article, yet in regards to Trump, that list alone would constitute 15 different fact checks, and any repetitive use of the exact same comment would be counted independently. Like I said, shady as hell. It says, but Glenn truly shone with his tortured explanations and his fact checks, creatively calibrating details, adding more context, redefining terms, interpreting intent, and any other tool of subjectivity could be applied to what was allegedly a hard analysis of truth. Then, of course, there were those precious moments when the Viscount Verite if I even pronounced any of that right, who by definition was the final word on accuracy, would struggle getting the facts correct. Don't you love it when your supposed fact-checkers can't get things right? This is one notable lowlight was when he tried to dispel the claim that George Soros backed the campaign of Alvin Bragg. Glenn's reasoning that Soros gave a large sum to a PAC, which then gave that exact amount to Bragg's campaign, exonerated Soros of involvement. I remember that. And he got blasted to hell for that. It says after he was shown on Twitter to have gotten the facts wrong, he lashed out at what he called Twitter trolls, because it's always Twitter trolls of these people when they're proven wrong, and was promptly corrected by community notes for getting facts incorrect 2 additional times. What does the community note say here? Oh, it's 2 of them. It says Soros donated $1 million to the Color of Change PAC, the largest individual donation it received in the 2022 election cycle, days after it endorsed Bragg for district attorney and pledged more than $1 million in spending to support his candidacy. And then underneath that it says, the original community note does not say that the Color of Change PAC spent the $1 million it originally pledged. Soros donated $1 million to the PAC days after it endorsed Bragg and pledged more than $1 million in spending to support his candidacy. So he got double hit. A-hole. Says Glenn has declared that illegal immigrants cause less crime while ignoring that by being illegals. They sit with a rate at 100% right. It's literally illegals. It's like they're automatically coming into the country illegally have committed a crime. This isn't a difficult thing to understand. I hate when people say that illegals cause less crime. It's like just by virtue of being illegal, they've committed a crime. It's called illegal. Anyway. He called it inaccurate that FEMA paid a fortune to house illegals in hotels when the agency displayed that very fact on its website. During the campaign, he denied Kamala Harris wanted to cut the consumption of red meat, then went on to show she essentially said that very thing. He called it false when Ron DeSantis said Democrats favored late-term abortion, but did not disprove him. So all he managed was to say that the procedure was rarely performed, which we know is not true. Says one other hallmark of Kessler's career was how often his definitive final reports on the facts needed to be readdressed when shown to be factually incorrect. Says in one case of trying to defend Biden from the GOP for quoting him directly, Kessler tried to say there was an edit in the video changing the context when there was not. He then sheepishly gave the full quote and told people to figure it out for themselves. Ah, man, what a dick. Says in a supposed fact check, says he took on the role of an internet troll, making an audacious claim, and when asked for proof, tells people to go Google it and find out. Says, of course, he was on the front lines defending Joe Biden from accurate reports of mental decline, becoming further inconsequential when he was among those pimping the cheap fakes videos cannered. He ridiculed Ted Cruz for pushing the COVID lab leak theory as an impossibility, yet later had to assert that it had become credible. Then the facts authority outdid himself by declaring it was Donald Trump's fault that Glenn had not done his job. It all comes back to blaming Trump, doesn't it? So the Trump administration's messaging was often accompanied by anti-Chinese rhetoric that made it easier for skeptics to ignore the claims. Okay, that's retarded. Says obviously Kessler was on the side of denying the Hunter Biden laptop, but even while following the lead of the rest of the press, he managed to distinguish himself. First, he admitted that he had not explored the details of the laptop when he stated, recently, a reader directed our attention to a report about its contents. Then, when he grudgingly began to peer into the matter, he came up with his neutered conclusion. When we looked into it, there was less to the story than one might imagine. Yes, that Hunter Biden laptop, the thing, oh God, I'm not even going to get into it, but yeah. Anyway, I have too many thoughts going through my head right now. It says, we close this incomplete tribute out with a grand example of his hackery. While it is difficult to choose, I consider this one a personal favorite. Kessler made a grand effort to defend Pete Buttigieg after the transportation secretary made the oddball statement that bridges in New York were racist. You know all those racist bridges you go across all the time? I mean, are they do they speak ill of people like that? I didn't know they did that. So it says, as they were allegedly built lower to keep minority residents away from public beaches. I remember Buttigieg saying that, and it's just kind of looking at him like, what? Says, we received Glenn's support for the comment by referencing the biography of the then city planner, Robert Moses. In describing The Power Broker, Kessler described the book as a majestic biography and indicated that he had read it in a rave review, easily one of the best non-fiction books ever written. Then Glenn was contacted by historians who informed him that the details inside the biography were considered inaccurate and that his majestic work, ranking among the best ever published, was essentially disregarded these days. Uh-oh. So it says it serves as definitive evidence of the craftsmanship seen in Glenn's work. It is all on display there. The reactionary defense of Democrats, the snide references to critics on the right, the pompous citing of dubious sourcing, and the definitive declarations of inaccuracies, followed by a meek and less enthusiastic correction. But what was on display was the fluid foundation of most of Glenn Kessler's fact checks. While he was tasked with delivering this final say on accuracy and evidentiary rectitude, he would instead begin from a stance of partisan application, only to later be undermined by the very thing that his job title stipulated, the arrival of the facts. So I brought this up just to kind of go over, like, these fact checkers, such as this man here. They're not really fact checkers. They're partisans, and they are just going to run interference for Democrats. And this is why you should never listen to them. Anyway, if anyone calls themselves a fact checker, just disregard what they're saying. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.